I think that how we think is important. There are so many different ways that we can be thinking. That when we've got how are we hearing this? And what does that mean? And how am I going to react to that? I've actually been working on that with my girls. I'm finding myself lately having to explain a lot of why I'm saying something the way that I do in order that we get that understanding. So I do have a literal thinker. I'm actually finding myself lately saying sarcasm is to understand, I do use sarcasm, not very dry sarcasm. But, it's really sort of launched these discussions with my girls about our brains work in different ways and we think differently. And there's actually some ways that our brains think that are really good that we can develop. And they've been into that too. And so, this has been great. And we've been talking about abstract thinking and what that really means and what that means for them and how they can be abstract thinking. Hi, and welcome to Learning Life, and thank you so much for joining me as we look at abstract thinking. Personally, I think it's fascinating. I love the way that our brains, will work as it processes information, and there are so many different ways that it can be doing it. We're all unique, but we all actually need to work together, especially in communication. Communication is not just a one-way street. And abstract thinking is something that I've been really thinking about lately. I've had to work with my literal thinker on this. This has actually been a challenge for me lately to really be thinking, how do I put something to her because she is taking it at face value, and I've been having to get her, to work on asking for clarification rather than getting upset because, somebody has said something, she's just, oh. And, so this has actually been really good. Do you have a literal thinker? Look, I've done a video on living with literal thinkers, and that link is down below, but it's been a challenge, but it's also been good because we've had these discussions on abstract thinking, literal thinking, concrete thinking, and it's really fun to watch 8, almost 9-year-olds think through these things and for them to see that there are different things that we can be learning. Yes, there's always these different things that we can be learning. So I thank you for watching these Learning Life videos with me. Thank you for your comments. And you know what? It's never too late to like or subscribe or share with your friends. What is abstract thinking? So abstract thinking, it's where we think beyond what we see, okay? It's not right there in front of us. That's concrete. What we see, and we're going to be dealing with concepts, with ideas and theories. We can't see it before us. Like I say to the girls, it's a bit like wind, we can't see it. We can see effects of it, and it really enables us to develop new ideas and look at the bigger picture. That's what I want for my girls. We definitely need abstract thinking in creativity, in innovation and in problem solving. Our problem solving is not going to work if we always just look at it literally. We need to be able to be abstract. But then we have things like love, freedom, compassion, these sort of sentiments. And they can have very different interpretations depending on the age, depending on who you are. And so I've been working with the girls on that because we need to understand. We need to be able to manipulate ideas and to theories and to, we've got these emotions and what does that mean? And that it might mean something for me, very different to somebody else, and that we can all look at it differently. And this, when we learn to communicate that and to share that, is really a rich experience for us all. Can we learn abstract thinking? Abstract thinking is not something that we learn just a specific subject or skill. It's not like learning a language or learning how to cook or learning to sew. It develops in us, okay? Yes, we sort of have these natural parts within us for abstract thinking, and some people, they may naturally excel in it. There are others, though, that really need more practice and exposure to develop it. This is where the 21st century skills, like those 4C skills, come into play. I love these skills. We've got our collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. These things are great ways to really be developing abstract thinking. How can we explain it to kids? So we can describe abstract thinking to our children, okay? I'm doing this like with my girls. I'm really trying to relate it to like their everyday experiences and using language that is age appropriate, like simple to where they're at so that they can really grasp a hold of it. So, here are some examples. So abstract thinking is like using your imagination to understand things you can't see or touch. Okay, so we're imagining things that are not right in front of us. Okay, think about what you want to be when you grow up. That's abstract thinking. You can't see your future job right now, but can you imagine it in your mind? Yes, abstract thinking. It's also when you connect different ideas together. A bit like putting like a puzzle together. We put those pieces together, those different ideas, and we're going to see the bigger picture. Okay, we're working on riddles, or you've got your toys and you think of a new way that you could play with them, like instead of just the way that pretty much everybody else does. That's also abstract thinking. And it helps you to think in creative and imaginative ways. It's not just what you can see and touch. And that is going to help you solve problems, and that's going to help you think outside the box, be creative, and think about things in a whole new way. Some examples of abstract thinking for kids. So it's like coming up with a new game. Okay, this could be a board game that they make, with all the rules or anything, or a game that they're playing outside with friends and a ball or whatever it is. New games are a great way of thinking like abstractly with what you could be doing. It's also making connections between stories when you are reading together. So you can read and stop and be like, what's going to happen next? What do you think? And getting them to connect between what has already happened, but getting them to think in that way. That's also great for our reading comprehension later, but it's great for abstract thinking. It's solving riddles. It's doing puzzles. And the great thing is we have riddles and puzzles for our younger children, and they build up and they develop. And it can be so much fun with that. I'm personally not a jigsaw puzzle fan just because it takes too long and I don't want that. But I love riddles and working with that. And so these are some great things. It's having fun imagining things that don't exist. I'll do this with my girls. What would you do if a dinosaur came to the door? Or what would you do if all of a sudden you could fly? Where would you go? What would you do? And it's also understanding metaphors. Children tend to find similes a lot easier because we've got that like or as, but understanding metaphors, even idioms and all of those different things. Like for my literal thinker, and it just sort of made me smile one day when she was doing something. I'm like, whoa, hold your horses. And she just stopped and she goes, I don't have any horses. Okay, so there's those idioms, but the metaphors and getting them to understand that. Activities to develop abstract thinking in kids. So we want to encourage open-ended questions. I know that I am bad sometimes of just asking questions that have a yes or no answer or a really simple one. No, we want to be able to in getting them engaged in discussion, but it's so, did you have fun at school today? Yes, no, or being more what was it about school today that, excited you? Trying to get them to think about things. Yes, we're going to play with metaphors, analogies, and all of that, just having fun. All of these things can just be done around the dinner table, driving in the car, being able to talk through it. Do hands-on activities. And in this, not just doing, craft kits or anything like that, but just getting them something to think, maybe you're building something outside, maybe you're doing craft. Anything that can be hands-on can be really good as we incorporate these other things like problem solving and all of our critical thinking, and creativity and collaboration in it. we do want to expose them to diverse experiences. Okay, not just doing the same old things. Yes, we want to go hiking. We want to go to museums. We want to go to the art gallery. We want to talk to our neighbors. Like whatever it is, when we've got this range of things, it's going to help us think in a different way. This is something that's going to be rich and rewarding for them. And let's promote divergent thinking. I do really like that word divergent because, we diverge, we move in a different way. And we can promote that in many different ways. Again, with what if questions, or even having them talk to somebody that has a different opinion or idea than you do. When we start hearing different ideas, this can be a very good thing to get them to be thinking in different ways, especially if maybe it's something that they don't necessarily agree with. How can we work through that? Let's provide open-ended materials. And by this, I mean, not just craft kits. I'm not saying that they are bad. They are great and they can be such a stepping stone to something else. But, our Play-Doh, our Legos, all of these things that let them be something more than they are. I mean, I think about my girls and blocks and what they've built out of it. And we have some that are outside and they become villages, or they become a road that they can weave their bikes or scooters or whatever through. These open-ended materials allow them to be using it in different ways, that rather than just, this is what it is and this is how we use it. And of course, we want to practice reflection and critical thinking. So reflection, sitting back upon our ideas, my husband is good at asking the girls, what was your high of today and what was your low? They're reflecting back on the day and being able to think about it. And then that critical thinking side, which to me is always something I'm trying to promote with them, getting them to think. This is all really good. And if we can get our children to be thinking abstractly and getting them to be moving in that way, then we've got some really good things going on there. So even your literal thinkers can be learning and developing their abstract thinking. Well, thank you so much for watching today. And I just want to remind you that if you haven't had the chance, check out last week's video because we've got a giveaway, and find out how you can get into the drawing, because we are going to wrap up that drawing Friday evening. So if you're watching this the Thursday, you've got until tomorrow night to get that in. Well, thank you so much for being part of this learning life, for connecting and just watching these videos and letting me know your thoughts as well. And if you want to help get these videos out, you can. Yeah, you can help us by being a champion or a patron, and you can do that through patreon.com or through my website, LearningThis.Life.